Hey guys, Sean Bougie, surplusfundsriches.net. Pull out a notebook, pull out a pen, take the time to watch this because I'm going to give you the keys to the kingdom. Everything you need to succeed is going to be in this video. So here's what you're getting, guys, in this training. I'll teach you how to get mortgage and tax overage lists, and then difficult or different areas to work. Researching the lists. Guys, once you get a list, you need to research the debt and the ownership of the property at the time of the sale. The only debt, kicked out on the foreclosure is the foreclosing entity debt. However, the other debt, even though it's no longer against the property, has a priority claim to the overage. So you need to know, was there a second mortgage? Was there a HELOC loan? That could somehow keep you from collecting the funds. Otherwise, you're just going to waste your time. I'm also going to touch on incomplete lists, how to go around, or rather figure out lists where you only have a parcel ID number. Deceased owners, we'll talk about that, how you don't have to open up probate in a lot of instances, and quitclaim deeds and the impact those have on your research. Skip tracing, we're going to tell you who to use and why, give you some insider tips with that. Contacting, we're talking about mailings, calls, texts, whether or not you use social media, virtual assistants, any of that, and how to incorporate a takeaway close into your contact with these people. Negotiation, we're going to talk about disbelief and mistrust, how some people in the industry have a problem with that. The contracts, I'm actually going to get into what the contracts are, the content and the structure of those contracts. I have people that work with me just because they can make more money doing part of the work, partnering up with us, than they can make on their own as a standard finder because of the system we put into place. Hiring notaries and attorneys, the speed that's involved, why that's important, and why it's important to do a title recheck prior to having the attorney. So we work both mortgage and tax overages. There's a couple of different ways to get lists. They're not hard. Online, I'm going to give you an example right now of actually how easy it is to find lists, and just give you an example. Okay, so what I plugged in on Google was overbids list. You can also check out surplus funds list, mortgage overage list, tax sale overage list, excess funds, excess proceeds. I plugged this in to give you guys an example of what's out there. This is a very small county, and you can see even on this very small county, we've got a $19,000, $16,000, $13,000, and $8,700 one. Tiny county. This is where it gets interesting. We've got both the foreclosure sale surplus, which is the mortgage overages. So guys, you can see another small county, some small ones here, 10,000 then, 109,000, 8,300, 27,000, 25, 25, 114, 15, 35, 652,000, 59,000, 77,000. Market is so hot that the overages are getting higher and higher and higher by the day. 33,000, 55,000, 124,000, 353,000. I skipped that one. 44, 138, 87. 2 million just off of one recently. And that's just one county. There are over 3,000 counties in the United States. That was mortgage. Again, small county, and that was still what we got. These are tax in that small county. And we can scroll through amount of surplus. One of the points, 18,000, one of the points I want to make here, guys, as we're scrolling through this, is you saw a lot of folks just work tax overages. These are mortgage overages. And I mean, these are tax here, but the previous list I gave you was mortgage overages. And you saw how many high dollar ones there were on that too. 93,000, 62, minus somebody made a claim on 10 of that. 41,000, 100, 5,300, 25,000, 8,800, 35, 37, 16. I love this particular list because they're updating it obviously, but look, there was a claim on 6,300. Who made that claim? I know a lot of you guys are out there going, wait a minute, it's all due to the owner. Why would they only claim that? Maybe it was 1/3 of them, one of 3 owners, or maybe it was somebody that was a creditor. You've got to check that, and I'm going to show you how to do that. It's not hard. 42,000. So that was a real search, guys, online. It was just using one search term on Google. I only showed you the first couple of results off of that page. So obviously, I mean, there's 3,000 plus counties, guys. We do not have a saturation issue in our business. As far as buying lists, there's pros and cons with that. The obvious con is if you can buy it, so can somebody else. We would prefer to teach you how to fish and get your own list. In addition to finding them online and buying them, you can also request them. That can be one of the most productive ways to do it. As far as requesting it, guys, whoever held the sale is the person you're going to want to talk to. If you need to request it, get in touch with whoever held the sale. If it was a department, if it was the county clerk, whoever held that particular tax or mortgage foreclosure sale, you're literally saying, I'm looking for, and I would list the different terms: overbids, surplus funds, excess proceeds, tax sale overages, mortgage sale overages. And remember, and this is going to come up later, whenever there's a barrier, whenever there's something you need to do that some people would be afraid to do, that's opportunity because other people aren't going to do it. So requesting a list really does pay off. And just so you know, I've said this before, guys, it's the court's job to give you the information. If they ask you why you're asking, you tell them the truth. I'm doing research. There's not a black helicopter flying over the court waiting for somebody to call them and ask this question so they can come and arrest you. Worst areas, I'm going to say difficult areas, right? We work, if somebody wants to partner up with us, and we'll do all the heavy lifting there. If somebody wants to partner up with us, the worst areas that we found, or the difficult areas, Philadelphia is really difficult. They started the DART program, Defendant Asset Recovery Team in Philadelphia. It takes over a year to get money out of that court. They just drag tail. Colorado, Oregon, and Washington State, we do not work just because they're a pain in the butt. D.C., District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., is very difficult to work because they're just dirty. Same thing with Cook, Illinois, Cook County, Chicago, Illinois. Arizona is harder to work simply because whenever you do a search online, Arizona for certain search terms comes up on the first page and everyone's working. Virginia is a Commonwealth state, so is Pennsylvania. So in Virginia, the counties are given a lot more leeway or latitude on how they handle lists, what they call them, and all that. So getting a list from one county doesn't necessarily mean the one and done method doesn't work there, because you're going to have to explain to the next county what you're doing. However, there's a hell of a lot of money in Virginia, excuse my French. California is difficult to work because most counties only hold once a year tax sales. Those tax overages, you have to wait a year for your claim to be looked at, even though you can submit it right away. There's a 1 year delay built into being able to get the money, 1 year delay from the date of the sale. Okay, the other issue with California, same thing with Texas, which is next on the list, is mortgage overage lists are going to be impossible to get. You can get tax overage lists, no problem. Mortgage overage is going to be a little more difficult to get because they allow the foreclosing attorney, called the trustee for the bank, they allow them to actually do the surplus funds, give the surplus funds out, to claimants. So those guys just don't give a list out because it's too much liability. Let's see, New York, we've just had difficulty, or our guys have had difficulty getting accurate lists in the past. Georgia, they require that you pay a fee in order to access the Registry of Deeds or online land records department, which you're going to need to do to research debt. Michigan, tax sale overages, in the past they've kept them, said it was used for community redevelopment. There was a recent court case that overturned that, so we're going to start seeing tax overages coming in from Michigan. Tennessee, the only time you run into an issue in Tennessee is occasionally you're going to see that they're going to ask that you have a Tennessee driver's license to get the list. Not all the counties are tough on that, but some of them are. Number one mistakes that newbies make: you try to work just your local area, stop it. It's online from home. There's no difference online. Some of you guys on mortgage overages are trying to backward engineer it. You're figuring that everything that is a mortgage foreclosure creates an overage. So you're looking at opening bid versus the sale amount and thinking that's an overage. Nope. A lot of mortgage companies have begun actually opening the bid or setting the opening bid for less money than what's owed, just to get the interest, because they know it'll bid it up and go over what's owed, and they'll be fine and get their money back. And get a list of actual foreclosure overages or tax sale overages. Don't try to backward engineer it. You also have to check the age of the list and verify that the funds are there, because if it's an old list, you're chasing money that may have been claimed either by the individual or another asset recovery person. So researching lists, guys, you have to research the ownership and the debt as it stood the day of the sale. Whatever is foreclosing, that debt was taken care of in the foreclosure. But if there was a second mortgage or a HELOC loan, equity line loan, if there was some other debt against the person or the property prior to the sale, that debt has a priority claim to the overage. I know you've been told that you simply have to get the name off the list, call them, make a deal, and go make a claim. No, absolutely not. If there was additional debt, that is entitled to the overage, not the person. I know also what you're going to argue with me about. You're going to say, that debt was kicked out against the property. It absolutely was. That debt no longer stands against the property. It's still debt. That's why mortgage companies and creditors can get default judgments against people. It's still debt against the person, which means it has a priority claim to the overage. So you have to do research. So let's do something really quick. I'm going to show you guys researching debt and ownership. It is not hard. Real quick. the reason the method I'm going to use here is I'm going to show you, for instance, let's say that you got that it was my name, Sean Bougie, SHAWN Let's say you got that name on a list, and that's all you had. Maybe you had the address, maybe you didn't, but you do have an overage amount. What the heck? Where would you go? Where would you start? How do you research ownership and debt? And we'll take you through that really in-depth, step-by-step in the program, but I'm going to actually show that to you right now. So the first step is to just Google the county. What I did with this one was Mecklenburg County Tax Assessor. I'm going to go to the County Assessor's Office. So sometimes you can use the GIS Polaris search. You can also just do a tax bill look. So I'm just going to go ahead and search by owner name because I had that on this list, let's say. That's me. You can see where they showed the ownership transfer at one point, and then they also show a current bill. Has a street address. If you didn't have that, now you got it. Has the legal description, but it's fairly easy. This is a shortened legal description. That's going to be important because if I owed more than one property, you'll be able to check the legal description, which never changes, on each deed or deed of trust to make sure it's the right one. And go to the Register of Deeds, also called the Land Records Department, for that particular county. Okay, this is for Mecklenburg County. Real estate. I'm going to search the entire index. I'm going to put in my name. And this is where you're going to see something interesting. So if somebody's owned a property for a long period of time, they may have had multiple deeds of trust or mortgages against the property. This is me, not necessarily that property. And I used to do a lot of work with past clients as a realtor where I took power of attorney and then a pre-deed, for instance, power of attorney, and to close on a property. Either I listed or I sold the buyer for, or they were out of town or they couldn't make it. I had power of attorney for them. And I did that a lot. But you can see also another way to go through this, besides the fact that I'm not looking for powers of attorney, you can see lot numbers don't match. It was lot 27, map 27. So these do not apply. See how easy that is to filter through all this stuff? None of that applies. Now if I go to the next page, again, you'll see this is regarding something else. You've got acreage, and it was regarding my client on that. So you'd know not even to look at that. But what do we have here? So right here we have a deed, and guess what? That name, Tammy Carlson, matches the name of the person who owned the property prior to getting this. So this has got to be the deed on the property. So immediately we know when it's sold to me, which is important. You need to know how, when I took ownership. So this is what a deed looks like, guys. General warranty deed, pretty straightforward. Tells you when it closed, where it's recorded. All of that is very easy to read. You can also see lot 27 still well placed. We've got a match. They'll also usually have an addendum like this where it says lot 27, map 27, page. That's your legal description. So now we know when I bought it. Now what about debt? Well, that's just as easy. What we see next, or rather same day, is this. We have a deed. This is called a deed of trust, which in North Carolina is what they call a mortgage. And you can see everything you want about it. How much I bought it for, what the terms of the deal are, the fact that it's a security instrument. And you can read it if you want. They're boilerplate, guys. They don't change from one deal to the next. And this one's long because it's a mortgage. It will also have, there's a plan unit development rider because I'm in an HOA. So this shows you again, they always use legal description so I know I have the right property. If I had gone into foreclosure, and let's say it was a tax sale, and you saw this debt, if it was not satisfied or terminated, and they show you that if it's satisfied or terminated online in the Register of Deeds department, then I would know there was additional debt against the property. Do you see how easy this is? Now, if this was the foreclosing entity, obviously this would no longer apply because they've been paid out of the foreclosure. So guys, I just wanted to give you a really good understanding of how easy it is to read through all this information. I talked about how the ownership, the name on the list, might not have been the owner at the time of the sale. Whoever the last deed holder was, the last owner with a recorded deed on that property, they are entitled to the surplus unless there's additional debt against the property which is entitled. Now, if it's a $50,000 overage and there's a $20,000 HELOC loan, equity line loan, that hasn't been satisfied, well, we can still go after $30,000, right? Because we can, at the time we petition to get the money, we can have them set aside that 20 grand for the HELOC loan payoff, and we can go forward. What you guys have been told online is if there's other debt, it was kicked out by the foreclosure, it doesn't count against anything. No, it doesn't count against the house, but it does count against surplus funds. So you have to do that research, guys. Are you starting to understand why the research is important? Incomplete lists, we kind of touched on that, guys. If you only have a parcel ID number, you can still search the tax assessor's office to find the owner's last name, and usually they have historical records in there. You saw that. You can also use it to find the legal description, or at least a truncated or shortened or abbreviated version of that you can use to make sure you're looking at debt that actually applied against the property. Because a mortgage against 123 Street does not apply on an overage created from East Parabellum Street. You've got to know that. That's important. Not hard to do. Again, deceased owners. This is important because we're an aging population, and you guys are going to run into this when you're doing your research. If the deed said joint tenants with rights of survivorship or tenants with rights of survivorship, and there's two people or more on there, if one of those people died before the foreclosure, all of their interest in that deed transferred to the other surviving owner. So you can go just through them as long as you have a copy of the death certificate. Not hard to get, usually through the owner you're talking to, the survivor. Very important because we're an aging population and you're going to run into this a lot. What if it's owned by a company? You can check the Secretary of State for the state, even if the company isn't incorporated in that state. In order to transact or sell and buy property, they had to be a foreign corporation, as they call it, registered in that state. Therefore, they're on the Secretary of State's website. That shows the officers. You can contact them, make a deal with whoever it is that has the right to sign, and you'll be able to work with businesses as well. Deeds of ownership versus deeds of trust. I hope you've gotten an idea of that. Deeds of trust, also called mortgages. There's a difference, guys. They are completely separate. Okay, so skip tracing. Now you've researched the debt and the ownership of the property, right? So now what you need to do is find them. Find these people so you can try to call them, mail them, get in touch with them, and put the deal together. The top systems, in my opinion, out there are IDI Data, TLO, Microbilt, and White Pages Premium. Now, TLO has really gotten tight on who they'll accept. Usually you have to be a private investigator or an attorney these days. So unless you're one of those, you're probably not going to be able to get that. IDI Data is fantastic. They're really good at finding the claimant, their possible phone number and address. Great to work. That's always our first go-to. Microbilt, the beauty with those guys is they're not as good as IDI at getting you the claimant info. However, they're fantastic at finding possible relatives or associates. That's a big deal. If you call them, microbilt.com is where you'll go. MICROBILT. There's no U in it. Phone number's online. Talk to Randy Mostetler. Tell him that you were referred by Sean Bougie, and he will waive the $200 startup fee. And they have very reasonable subscription services for that. White Pages Premium is really good if it's a recent sale, particularly in tax, because a lot of times the people aren't out of the property yet, and you can do a reverse lookup by their address. Now, the timing and importance of repulls. So at the foreclosure, usually within a couple of weeks, they're out of the house. As a result of that, you've got to repull skip tracing at a certain point. So it's important that you guys set up to where if you can't get in touch with them, you're going to repull it a little bit later. Why and how do you contact possible relatives and associates? You're going to send the same letter, and I'll touch on the letter here too, letter or postcard, and make it say the same thing when you're using a script to get in touch with these people. But you're also going to send out a letter or postcard to their possible relatives or associates addressed to them. First of all, they might be living with them now. Secondly, that person will call you and say, hey, they're not here, but here's where they are. That's extremely important. Same thing can be done with phone numbers for those guys. Number one mistake you guys make is you use cheap or free systems. You get what you pay for. So contacting folks, this is going to be a big deal. And this is where a lot of people using others, at least this is what I get calls about. They're using a different service and they're being told, hey, they don't believe me. There's mistrust. I don't have any credibility. How the heck do I get past that? And there's a number of reasons for that, guys. And I'm going to touch on all this. So mailing effectively, you need to tell them where the money is, that the money was created from the foreclosure. I usually have my crew write in the address so that they understand we know what we're talking about. It's not just some mailing sent to everybody. On that, we use postcards primarily. Write in the address, the dollar amount. It doesn't matter, and I'll tell you why that doesn't matter later. But trying to do this by going, hey, I know where there's money you're owed, and I'm not telling you where it's at. Click, they're gone. right? That's why you're getting the distrust and all that. So you need to tell them what created the money, how much it is, and then information on yourself. You've been doing this for X amount of years, or you're with rightfulownerproject.org, which is a great, cheap way to get online credibility, by the way. I prefer postcards because they have to look at it without throwing it away. I also prefer my crew actually handwrites the address, name and address in there. You always address it to the claimant, even if you're actually sending it to one of their possible relatives or associates. The rotation schedule that we set is we hit them really hard the first week, and then it's a 2-week rotation from then on out up until about 3 months. At 3 months, we will repull to see if there's additional information, different phone numbers, or different addresses. A heck of a lot of mailings out to folks, and that tends to help because there's always an Aunt May that wants to be in everybody's business, and they're a gatekeeper, and they will call you and give the people's name and address to call. Texting and social media, I'm not finding a lot of success with texting, even though you'd think we would. Social media, never had success with that. You always look like a scam approaching them. Virtual assistants, I know there's a guy online that really pushes that and says that's the way to go. I disagree. I think if you're going to scale up, you need to have in-house people working for you on your payroll. Takeaway. So at a certain point, what we do, right before we skip trace again, what we will do is if you leave a message, that's going to change. The message is going to be, hey, been trying to call you. You're not returning our calls. At this point, we're going to see if there's a creditor or someone else. We're going to double check to see maybe there's a different creditor we can go after that can claim this money instead of you. Appreciate your time. Have a great day. And same thing with the letter, very similar. Here's the money. Here's how much it is. We've been trying to contact you. You're not returning our call for whatever reason. Or we're going to see if maybe there's somebody else we can contact and work with them instead. Guys, that's the takeaway close. And I know none of my competitors are pushing that. Most people don't have the guts to use it. It will quadruple your return calls using a takeaway close, both on written and verbal communication. It's extremely important you do that. Zig Ziglar said it, and he was right. The fear of loss outweighs the desire for gain, so it is extremely important for you to take it away at a certain point in order to get them to take action. Rotation, you have to set a rotation. You have to be organized with this. Using a simple Excel sheet would be fine. And definitely, guys, don't be afraid to use the takeaway. Look, all right, so negotiation. Again, I know what you guys run into because you don't use the takeaway close and you try to hide where the money is. I know you run into people in disbelief. They don't trust you. You don't have online credibility. You're not going to put anything together. Getting past that disbelief and mistrust, let me tell you what I do. I give them 10% of the gross amount held by the court up front within a week or two after they sign my documents. If it's $100,000, they're going to check for $10,000 in 2 weeks. No kidding. Good faith money, non-refundable. They get to keep it. I send the rest of whatever we agree to. Usually, when we successfully get the money out, I take full responsibility for the cost of the attorney. And by the way, if you're not using an attorney, you are not professional. You are going to lose to people like me. You are not going to have credibility with the court. You're going to get hammered by the county. They're going to take their time paying you, and they're going to say, oh, by the way, we don't pay for third parties. So I'll tell you what, here's your check made out to the claimant since you have a power of attorney for a minute. Now, these guys teach you assignments and powers of attorney, which only work in certain states, and that also puts a cap on what you can make, dollar and percentage. Because we do upfront structured buyouts, some money up front, more later, and we always use attorneys, the money is sent to the attorney so they can use a trust account to cast a check. And they have good faith money, so we are participating in the retrieval, not just being a contingent type person involved with that. As a result, we are legal in all states. We also don't fall under any finder caps. And we have credibility not only with the claimant, who, by the way, what do they need after a foreclosure? Money. Not only do we have that, they sign a power of attorney to our attorney. They're not going to screw an attorney or try to go around them. And in addition to that, they sign our structured buyout agreement. The online credibility, guys, I like BBB, but it's very expensive. We set up rightfulownerproject.org years ago to help you guys get online credibility. You're welcome to join that. You don't have to. But it gives you a lot of online credibility. Starts you as an A rating. That's just phenomenal. Yes, if you're doing it without us, you're going to probably want to have a website. You can get free websites, hosting on a lot of different sites. Now, why you need to stop trying to talk them into it. A lot of you guys that are watching this training tried this in the past with somebody else's training, right? 30% of the guys that come to me started with somebody else and failed. They come to me and now they're excited and they're actually able to work it. Why you need to stop trying to talk them into it is if you talk them into it, you have to continuously talk them into it during the course of the process of the retrieval. You just don't want to do that. You do the takeaway, you're done, and now they've come back and they're not gonna argue in the future. Plus, they've signed a power of attorney to your attorney instead of to you, so they're not going to try to go around you. Advanced call techniques, guys, a couple things you need to know. I actually ran a telemarketing company for years. First of all, you want to change the way that you talk to these people when you're using your script. You want to go up at the end of a sentence instead of swallowing your words. So what you're going to do is you're going to go up in tone at the end of your sentence and then go on to the next sentence and then go up in tone again. See what I did? You go up in tone. They will not be able to interrupt you, okay? Because they've been programmed socially to interrupt you when you swallow your words or when you pause. So you go up. Also, you're using a yes voice. You're not talking to them like, hey, so what we're doing is... No, you're going, hey, so what we're doing, and you're assuming they're going to say yes. I know that sounds silly and ridiculous, and like Yoda's going to pop on the screen any second here, right? But no, it's absolutely true. Anybody that's done any kind of telemarketing or online sales or sales rather over the phone knows what I'm talking about. Website options, again, guys, rightfulownerproject.org will give you a lot of credibility. It's fairly reasonable. I think we're going to go up to $299 if we haven't already, but it's still, that's for lifetime. The takeaway, again, when you're negotiating, it's the same thing. The takeaway is huge. You just, if they're like, well, I don't want to do it for that, or I don't, hey, I completely understand that. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. I'm going to send you a letter confirming the conversation just to give you my phone number. If you change your mind, give me a ring. I just really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. And sir, I wish you the best and I hope you have a great day. Have a good day. Bye. Always say bye, otherwise they'll say you hung up on them, right? And it's no issue at that point. They're going to call you back. You know why? In their mind, because you're using a good faith upfront payment, in their mind they're thinking, you know, I could really use that. $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, whatever it is, I could really use that right about now. And they're going to start spending that money, and the car is going to break down. And they're going to realize, you know what, this guy has a vested interest. He has money in it. He's using an attorney. He's on the hook for that. They're going to call you back. If they get a call from somebody else that doesn't use an attorney, that doesn't use a good faith payment, they're not going to care so much about the difference on percentages, whatever that particular difference is, because they're going to realize, hey, this guy's actually spending money, time, and effort and knows what he's doing. So you just don't run into that with us. What if they're working with somebody else? Guys, I don't poach anybody. If they're working with somebody else, we go, hey, sorry, didn't mean to step on anybody's toes. Appreciate you being honest about that. We can't work with you. Have a great day. Well, what about if they start asking questions? You can just go, hey, listen, ask the person you're dealing with that question, right? Well, I'm thinking, ask them. You sign an agreement with them. Go ask them. We're not going to step on anybody's toes. Let me tell you something, guys. That builds a level of credibility you've never seen, okay? Being upfront and honest and full disclosure pays off. Even if the people are not upfront and honest, they understand what they're dealing with, and you are upfront, honest, and you practice full disclosure. Number one mistake you guys are going to make is you lose control. You have doubt in the process. You lose control because you're afraid to use the takeaway. You go down rabbit holes searching for stuff. Well, maybe this particular debt won't count, or maybe this person is a second cousin, or I saw something where this John Thomas died. I wonder if it's the same. Find the right person. If you don't, you can always come back to it later. Do not go down that rabbit hole. And guys, you always do that professionally and cordially. You don't go, all right, fine, whatever. If you change your mind, call me. Have a great day. No, you go, hey, look, I appreciate what you're saying. I understand it. Have a great day. Bye. I mean, you take it away, guys. All right, guys, let's talk about the actual contracts, how you structure them, how you stay legal, and how this gets you around any finder caps. So first of all, to structure a tight binding contract with you on the buyout, what you're going to do is come up with a structured buyout agreement. Hey, and this is what has to be in there. Their name, their signature, notarized, the amount you're going to give them up front, at what point. I usually say within 10 business days. That way I can get their contract back in the mail. I hire a mobile notary, and I send the mobile notary, send them a FedEx label that they then use to send it back to you overnight. So when I do it, though, the structured buyout agreement has to have certain key things in it. The amount you're going to pay them up front and when, the amount you'll pay on the back end. If for some reason there is a difference in what you believe is to be retrieved, well, then at what point do you say, I'm not paying you anymore? Like, for instance, if you're going to pay them $2,500 and you get $5,000 out and your attorney costs you $25,000, You're not going to pay them any more than that. It'll also, if there's more money to be had, the list was incorrect for some reason, which happens, more or less money, what happens at that point, how is that split up? You cover all of that in your structured buyout agreement. The one I have is about 3 pages long. The buyout makes it so that people are more than happy to sign whatever you put in front of them. I do tell the mobile notary, make sure you go over it with them. And I tell the owner, I said, listen, read it. When you get it, read it, okay? I also give them, actually my crew gives them my direct cell number and then tells me when the mobile notary is going out. And the mobile notary has my direct cell number so they can call me just in case the claimant has any questions. I can answer those on the phone as well. The other thing they're doing is an attorney, which is a power of attorney to your attorney. To make this easy, because I know a lot of you guys are like, okay, but what about if I'm working in Tennessee and then I'm working in Georgia and then I'm working in North Carolina and South Carolina? How the heck am I do I have to have attorneys in place before I even do this? Absolutely not. The key is to hire an attorney. Most people that do this legal, right? It's one and done type method. You get an attorney local to work and say, look, I'll work any local deals, but what I also need you to do, explain the whole process to them. It's not hard to explain it to them. But once you get an attorney, it doesn't even have to be local. It could be an attorney in another state, but they're good to work with and there's no problems. Tell them, hey, look, I typically pay up to 10%, sometimes a little more, but up to 10%. I pay my attorneys 10% of gross. But I'll pay you, the referring attorney, 3% to find me an attorney or your paralegal to find an attorney somewhere else, just to do that. And they usually go, holy cow, that's great. My paralegal will make a lot of money. So your power of attorney goes always to the central attorney, and they are allowed to hire the local attorney to make the deal work. So once you get one attorney done, you're done. You don't have to hire any other attorneys. What to offer, I kind of cover that. I kind of let them talk when we come down to brass tacks as far as what it's going to cost, what they're going to charge me. Typically, they'll tell me either a set fee or a certain amount per hour, and I'll agree to that. Usually, it's reasonable, all things considered. Sometimes they want a percentage. I'll cap them out at 10% if they want a percentage. Staying legal, guys, it's very important that you actually give at least 10% of gross up front to them. By the way, if you partner with us, we'll do that. You partner with us with the national surplus, all you got to do is research debt and ownership, turn it into us. We'll find them, put the deal together, hire the mobile notary and the attorney. We'll give them 10% of the gross up front, and we'll give you, that's the national surplus, no brainer, and it takes 15 minutes for you to do the research once you've done a couple of files. Hire the attorney and roll it on out. Now, some of you guys out there that have been in business before, you're asking me, wow, the 10 days, why did you build in the 10 business days, 2 weeks, and how do you protect yourself? Well, during that 10-day period, the attorney that's getting hired to retrieve the money is pulling title as it stood the day of the foreclosure. So he's going to double check the work my researcher sent to me. You can also double check your own work and also make sure there weren't any judgments, because a lot of times online you can look up judgments. You can only look up, well, there's a few states that are exception, but you can only look up mortgages and liens against the property. So it's good that the attorney can double check to make sure there isn't an IRS tax lien, there isn't a credit card judgment, whatever. And that's why I built in the 10 business days or 2 weeks. I'd rather pay $150 up front and find out that, hey, there is additional debt and I can't work the deal, than pay the owner $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, 10% of the gross up front there and go, oops, I can't collect the money. So that's why I built in that time period. There are no finder caps because we are participating in the retrieval. That's a big deal. So the number one mistakes you guys make is you're using assignments or powers of attorney. That's stupid because you're using a power of attorney to yourself. Okay, the county in that case, in most cases now, is cutting a check made out to the claimant and sending it to you and going, since you have power of attorney, you cash it. You're not going to be able to cash a third-party check. Assignments are illegal in a lot of states, or that makes you a finder, which caps you out at a dollar amount, usually very lower percentage. I know the other guys aren't telling you this either. And you're not using good faith money, and that's the key, guys, to get them to sign. At least that's what we found. I went into how to pay the attorneys, right? As far as finding them, you can actually you can go online to the bar for that state, North Carolina bar, whatever state is, bar association, and they'll send you a referral for somebody to contact. Other types of attorneys that are great is real estate attorneys. You can walk them through the process. It's usually not difficult. You basically just tell them what they have to do. Some states require a motion. Others require that they only fill out paperwork for them. Because they're an attorney, the county will send the check to the attorney in the claimant's name, and the attorney can use their trust account to cash that check. Choosing and finding mobile notaries, literally a Google of a mobile notary, that city and state where the people are, will show you usually a ton of returns. Typically, you can spend anywhere from $75 to $200. I know that I've done deals in the Panhandle in Florida where there's like 5 mobile notaries because it's so there's no population density there. So it's more expensive. They have to drive, half an hour or whatever. It's $200, whatever. I'll do that. The beauty with the mobile notary is that they can meet them anywhere at their discretion and at their convenience. So title recheck, the reason you need that again is there's certain things that are going to pop up that might have a claim to that money that are not showing up on online searches. So it's very important to have the attorney double check that. Number one mistake you guys make, you don't give good direction to the notary, right? You don't go into it in detail. I have them get 2 copies signed of everything and send those originals back to me and then drop a copy off with the owner. I also have them take a picture of driver's license so that that's in the file for the attorney. And again, I recheck, have title rechecked prior to sending out the initial good faith money. So guys, if you're serious about this business and you want to work with the best, which I think is us, please consider, we built our system from the ground up, designed to work everywhere and get past any finder cap. We don't have any issues with legality. We never purchase somebody else's program, which cannot be said for these other guys out there. I know that a lot of them bought my program. They've either said so or intimated that they have. Basically, all they're doing is they're reselling information, telling you how to do this. Sometimes they provide good support. They don't partner with you, and they use assignments or power of attorney, which are questionable methods these days, guys. That's old school, and it just doesn't work. Our systems give the option of doing part of the work partnering with us. National surplus, you just research, debt and ownership, send it in. We do the rest. So we're working a lot different, guys. We make our money working with you, with partners out there. So we have a vested interest in making the deal work, and we have a vested interest in making sure that you're successful. And that's using our money, our training, our support. You get an initial PDF. Usually each program is 50 to 60 pages long. You get that. We recommend you read it twice. Once you've done reading it twice, at least now you've got it's a new skill set, right? So now you at least have the lingo down. And if you do use our online support system through Jeff, that's my right-hand man, my business partner, if you use that system, you're going to be using the same terminology. We're speaking the same language. He gets back within 1 business day, which is phenomenal. Nobody else does that fast. We also have live question and answer webinars. You also have a link from that ebook to a resources page that has a number of things on it. The independent contractor agreement is on there. You can sign online that protects us both. What you also have on there is exceptional video training, additional video training on there. You also have access to our active files list, so you know what files have already been turned in. So as soon as you get a list, the first thing you do is take the names from that list. You search our list to make sure that they're not in there already, and then we do not have a saturation issue at all. But it's nice that we're that transparent. We update that list at least 3-4 times a week, so you know what you're dealing with. And you're never going to get, oopsie, we already had that file. We've been working surplus funds, guys, longer than anybody else and work tens of thousands of cases. So if you're ready to work and you want to get the right system, ours is 1/3 of the price of anybody else's. Because we make our money actually working with you and putting deals together. We don't make our money just on hit and run. Education is enough to cover basically starting you up, providing support, doing the initial mailings on the files you turn in and all that. I appreciate your time, and I promised you my phone number. You can call me 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday Eastern Time at 704-791-9398. That's 704-791-9398.